This is the Night Owls Disc Golf Podcast. I'm Shane.
And I'm JP.
And I'm Bobby Cool Daddy Slick Breeze once again.
That's right. He's back, folks. He's back. All right. Well, as you know, we have a special guest, and we did allude to a special episode coming up this week. But before we get into all that, so night_owl_pod or adore_disc_golf. Those are our Instagram handles, and then doordisc.com, so you can get all your disc golf needs. Bobby, how you been?
I've been doing fantastic. Enjoying life for sure.
Good. So you are currently in Tulsa. Is that correct?
More Broken Arrow, but basically, yeah, right outside of Tulsa. I mean, it's one of those where you're driving down the road and all of a sudden you're in Tulsa, then you're in Broken Arrow or whatever, depending on where you're headed.
Yeah. So you have been out of the disc golf light for a little while. I think the last people you talked to was us, if I remember rightly. The last podcast. I
believe so. Yeah.
And I think you and I did a couple podcasts together.
Mm-hmm.
And then Bobby went silent.
Yeah.
So when you went silent, what happened?
So probably if anybody's been keeping up with my journey, I know just a few of you do like to, but I was trying to do something with Clash Discs. And, first I was just their social media manager, and I was helping them build their social media presence. Even did a couple of trips with them, met up with them at the, the Disc Golf Pro Tour conference. I can't even remember what it was called. It was a conference that we went to. And then, did their social media, and then thought, well, I can help them sell. So I tried to help them sell, created an online store, Cool Daddy Disc Golf. And then I wanted to be a wholesale distributor for them, and started that business, started getting some wholesale customers, and started really rolling with that. And things were going pretty good. They were going a little slow, but they were going pretty good. And then started to realize that starting a business and then trying to live off just that income was not probably gonna happen. So I needed something to be a regular paycheck. So started applying at different places, and got a job at Shields. For some people that don't know what it is, it's like an all sports store, very similar to like a Cabela's and a Dick's Sporting Goods, but they are all about building the experience rather than just selling sports equipment. They also have fashion and clothing and things like that. So I got a job, and I thought it was just going to be just a paycheck. It was just going to be something where they send me some pictures. I'll take a few pictures and do little videos, write some captions for Instagram and Facebook, and then schedule it. Well, little did I know it was going to be a lot more than that, which was exciting. They allowed me to be creative, create a personality for the Tulsa Seals. What's interesting about each individual store is that they have their own Instagram and Facebook. So we had Tulsa Shields, and then the one in Texas has the Colony Shields, and so they have their own Instagram and Facebook, and they can create a personality within that social media platforms. And so I thought that was very exciting. So I went with it. I did my thing, and then I was able to move up to social media lead, which just means I was in charge of social media. And we were doing a grand opening because it was a brand new store in Tulsa, and they created a position called a marketing director position. And, I went for that, got it. And I thought, you know what? I'm going all in. This is going to be it. And so in that process, I decided to say goodbye to Clash Disc, and in a sense, goodbye to disc golf. I knew a lot of my time was going to be taking up being the marketing director over the Tulsa Shields, and when I go all in, I go all in. And so although I'd played disc golf, it's not like I just got rid of all my discs, but it was time to say goodbye to Clash Disc. I tried that, wasn't successful. You gotta own your wins and your losses. So I moved on from that and said that Tulsa Shields was going to be my thing, and it was good. Things were going good. So that's basically how I kind of disappeared from disc golf. I was growing the market within Tulsa Shields.
That is great. So you were in Shields for how long?
I was there for about 1 year and 2 months.
Okay. And in that 1 year and 2 months, I know Shields has disc golf. Were you ever involved in that at all?
Yeah, a little bit. Actually, they do what's called PKs, which stands for product knowledge. That's another thing that stands out with Shields, is that they actually want their people to be experts when they sell particular categories or shops, they call it. So the guy that was in leisure games, which has disc golf, he wanted to learn more about disc golf, and he wanted his guys that were in his area to learn. So twice I did a PK. I taught disc golf. We would go to, one time we went out to an open field and we threw some discs, and then one time we were inside a facility where it was large enough where we could really rip on some discs, and I taught him how to drive, taught him how to putt, taught some mid shots and things like that. So it was fun. So yeah, I was involved in that aspect. And the guy's name was Will. He's fantastic. He would always tell me that people would come up and they would start shopping the disc golf section. And of course, it had Westside Disc, Latitude, and Dynamic Discs, and it had some Innova, some MVP, and then I believe it did have some Discraft as well. But Will would tell me people would come up and start shopping, and he would say, "Hey, have you ever heard of Bobby?" And they're like, "Bobby?" And he'd say, "Cool Daddy Slick Breeze." And they go, "Oh, yeah, I know him." He goes, "Well, he works here as the marketing director." So that was kind of his in sometimes. Now, some people were like, "I have no idea who you're talking about." but a few people would know my name and stuff like that. So it was kind of cool. And then I was going to try to work in so one of the areas as a marketing director was event coordinator and sponsorships. So a lot of times when we had festivals, or an organization was running a golf challenge or some sort of tournament, we would sometimes sponsor them. And so Tyson Jones, who's an awesome tournament director and a good friend of mine, he had reached out about sponsorship, and then Kyle from Tulsa Disc Golf had reached out about sponsorship. And one time we gave them these Shields bags. I gave them like a few hundred of them, and they used them for their, for the players packs. And then the next step was going to be, we were going to sponsor one of the bigger events, and I was going to try to get the Tulsa Shields logo on a stamp on a disc, and that was kind of my ultimate goal. But unfortunately, I left before all that happened. Kind of jumping into what we're talking about now, but yeah. To answer your question, yes, I was heavily trying to get our Tulsa Seals involved in disc golf because, of course, that was part of my world. Now, it would have been so cool to see the two worlds kind of collide together, and that's kind of what I was working toward.
So you mentioned that they use the Cool Daddy Slick Breeze name in the disc golf department.
Yeah.
How did your fellow colleagues learn about Cool Daddy Slick Breeze, and what was that like?
So, and I know a lot of people still give me kind of crap about the name, but so one of the things we did, so when I was hired, it was probably about 6 or 7 months before we even opened the store. So we were doing a lot of learning about the culture and a lot of learning about our job. And one of the things that as I was moving up into the social media lead, they wanted me to teach. So I was actually hired number 6 for people that were in Tulsa. And so I started very, very early before a lot of people came in. I learned about the culture, learned about Shields, and then all of a sudden they started, instead of hiring 2 or 3 people, they started hiring like 10, 20 people. And they would have, onboarding classes. And as part of the onboarding classes, everybody would learn about specific areas. And I taught about marketing and social media and how we were going to use social media in Tulsa. As part of that process, we would introduce ourselves and we would tell us, something interesting about us, about me being in the Marine Corps. I've done this, I've done that. And then one of the interesting things I would tell people is I was in the disc golf world and my name was Cool Daddy Slick Breeze. And then I would play them a clip from one of our YouTube videos where I would say, "Hey, everybody, welcome to this episode of the Disc Golf Answer Man. This is Bobby Cool Daddy Slick Breeze." And so everybody would know that's who I was. And so as even like what happened in the disc golf world, people would start calling me, "What's up, Cool Daddy? What's up, Slick Breeze? What's up, Cool Slick? What's up, Cool Breeze?" All these different names. And then when the store opened, we would do morning announcements before the store opens to kind of get people pumped up. Anytime I had an event coming up, I would get on there and say, "Hey, what's up, Tulsa? This is Bobby Cool Daddy Slick Breeze." So I would do my whole podcast thing to the entire store. So yeah, everybody knew me by that way. So it was fun. I loved it.
That's fantastic. So just introducing a little bit of disc golf into Shields culture.
Yeah.
That is fantastic. All right. So we have you on the podcast for a very specific reason.
Yes.
But before we get into that reason, we'll kick it down the road a little bit. You recently went to the block party, correct?
Yes, back to Emporia, Kansas.
So maybe you can use that experience. I know you shared a little bit with me. If you could use that experience and kind of tell us the big news through that experience.
Yeah. So actually, a few weeks before the Glassbone Open, now I'd heard, I obviously followed Dynamic Discs on Instagram and Facebook, and I knew that this was the first year bringing back the GBO, the Glassbone Open, where previously we had changed it to Dynamic Discs Open. But I had no intention of going there. I just thought it was cool. I was like, great, they brought it back. But a few weeks before that, I got an email from Berglund from Latitude 64 that he wanted to chat and just kind of get update on what's going on in my life. Well, long story short, that turned into a conversation about me coming back to Dynamic Discs. And I told him, yes, I would listen to what they have going on and entertain the idea to see what it would look like. And after about a series, meeting a few different people via Zoom and a few meetings that happened very quickly, they actually made me a job offer. And I am returning to Dynamic Discs as the brand manager. In a sense, what I was doing before, but just kind of under a different name and maybe a little bit more responsibilities as far as the branding identity, and the branding strategy for Dynamic Discs. And yes, I know you and I had talked about when we're releasing this, but by the time this comes out and is out, I will have been in Emporia for a couple of days. I guess you could say re-indoctrinating myself back into Dynamic Discs and what's going on. It's interesting that the HR guy sent me and said, well, there's a lot of stuff we got to go over, but you've already been through it, so it's probably going to be a quick process when you get here. But yes, I'm returning to Dynamic Discs, and I am beyond excited to return.
And I think some of us that knew Dynamic Discs before the merger, we're amazingly excited too. I mean, I've shared it with you 100 times that I am more than excited. And I think JP and I have talked about it multiple times on the podcast. Just seeing the state that Dynamic Discs, and we'll get into it, but the state that Dynamic Discs is in now, that it wouldn't have happened if the culture of Cool Daddy Slick Breeze was still there. So I want you to, if you would, explain or kind of tell the story of you pulling up in front of Dynamic Discs. I thought that was a pretty powerful moment.
Yeah.
And then I'll hand the microphone over to JP so he doesn't get shut out of this conversation. But if you can share that with me, that would be fantastic.
Yeah. So whenever the decision was made, they made a job offer, I accepted. And then it was like, well, this is I gave Shields, obviously the standard 2-week notice, but I gave them actually a 2.5-week notice because there was a big event we were working on, and I wasn't just going to leave them hanging because it was literally a few days before. I would have left them the Friday, and then the big event was on that Sunday, and I was like, I can't do that to my marketing team. So anyway, but I thought, you know what, I can't come to the Glassbone Open, but I can come to the block party, and so it was twofold. I wanted to get there and kind of assess what the Glassbone Open is now, because I know it's smaller, although, over 400 players is a nice size tournament, right? Mm-hmm. But when you had 1,200, 1,600 players at an event, it's smaller, obviously. But I also wanted to show my fiance, I wanted to show her, I've talked about the Glassbone Open, I've talked about disc golf, but it's better for her to experience it. And I thought the block party would be a great time for her to experience it. So we figured out a way for us to get down there on Saturday, and we're driving there. And of course, I mean, she's great. She's just an amazing support for me. And she would ask me, how are you feeling? How what's going on in your head? And I'd say, I'm nervous, I'm anxious, I'm excited to see people. I'm excited to see, obviously people that I worked with, McCabe and all the other guys. And as we're pulling into Emporia, I'm just like, okay, this is such a weird, familiar feeling, but such a foreign feeling because it'd been a while since I'd been back. We pull up to, and I'm showing her different things. Like, there's where we used to eat. There's what we used to do. Oh, there's the store. It's so sad that it's gone. Here's the country club. Now it's Champions Landing. And then we pull up to the warehouse, and I pull in, and I remember stopping and just looking at it. And I looked at my fiance, and I was like, I'm not sure what to feel right now. This is very surreal. And I said, helped build this. I was part of the team that made this. I remember thinking about going into a huge warehouse and would it even happen? Should we build a new one? Are we going to buy one? Is it too big? Is it big enough? It's like, or is it whatever? And it was, all these feelings started coming back up. And so we got out of the car, I grabbed her hand and we walked in, and the first thing I see is Tyler and Adam, and I saw Shane and Jackie and Seth, and I just big old hugs. And it was like a family reunion. I mean, it was just so different of, like, I used to work with these people, right? But at Shields, I didn't go up and hug everybody when I saw them. But excuse me, but these people I, gave big old hugs, and it was just an awesome feeling. And then I said, well, I'm going to show my fiance the warehouse. They're like, sure, go for it. So I walk out and we're looking around, and she's like, oh my gosh, I know you said it was big, but I didn't know I didn't know how many people buy so many discs. I don't understand. I'm like, hey, we ain't even the biggest disc golf company. They're much bigger. But even as we're still walking around, I'm just looking at it and thinking, oh my gosh, I remember. And I showed her my old office, and this is where this used to be. I think this is Amazon, and this is where we do hot stamping and all this. And then I grabbed her, and I had tears welling up in my eyes, and I just was like, I'm back. I never wanted to leave, and I the idea of coming back just like went away. But here I am, and I'm back. And then the weight of it, like, oh my God, I'm back. And am I going to be able to do this? And we all know the reputation, everything that's been going on. I mean, I'm not going to be, I'm not going to hide anything. Things were bad. Things are not so great. And now it's like, can I do this? Should I have said yes, or should I just stuck to the more comfortable Shields where things were okay, and it would have been okay. Mm-hmm. And then I was like, okay, I'm going to do this. We're going to make Dynamic Disc great again. And then I just got pumped. So yeah, it was even as we left, it was just a surreal feeling to be back where something is so familiar yet so foreign. So yeah, it was pretty crazy.
That's awesome. Sorry, JP, I just need to cut in the cake. Please explain the cake.
The resignation letter cake.
One of the most wonderful things I've ever seen. So where did that come? You gotta explain the cake. Where did it come from? How did they accept it when you handed in your letter of resignation?
Oh, the letter of resignation. Yes. So I'd already turned in my letter of resignation, obviously, when I gave my 2.5 weeks notice. But then I was just like, I got to go out with something crazy. And I remember back when I worked at the credit union in Bartlesville, the marketing director at the time did that. He put his letter of resignation on a cake, and I was like, I've got to do that. So I called them, and they said, yes, they can do an image on a cake. So what I did was I wrote, I already had my letter of resignation, but I needed it to be longer so it looked cool on a cake. So I went to ChatGPT, and I said, and I gave them my resignation, and I said, expand it because I'm going to put it on a cake and all this stuff. And so it did. So it puts all the fancy words and a bunch of filler words. Anyway, you go to Reesers, and I printed it out on a document. I gave it to them. They turned it into an image, and it's literally on the cake. And we have what we call staff meetings, where it's all the leadership, all the assistant store leaders. We meet every Tuesday morning. We talk about what's going on in the store. And I had that cake for them, and everybody thought it was awesome. Now, the really cool part is it was my last staff meeting before I left. The cool part is everybody knew my history and knew what I was going to. And they had a basket in the meeting room. And for every morning before our meeting, we always have about 10, 15 minutes of something fun, trivia or something to just kind of get it, because it's 6 a.m. So you got to get kind of everybody awake. But anyway, so they had a basket, and they had 5 putters, and everybody got to go around the room and tried putting. And so that was really cool. That was a cool little send off.
That's awesome. All right, JP.
So you were talking about getting the email of the news of asking you to come back. In the back of your mind, you never want to say like anything's totally closed off. How did you ever in your wildest dreams think that they'd reach back out to you, or is it one of those things where you're like, I'm at Shields, I'm content, disc golf's around me, I'm good with that, but like actually going back is kind of a crazy thought to you?
I would say, like, when I first left DD, I was like hopeful that like something would change and they would be okay with a remote type position, because it was very important to be back here at home in Oklahoma. But obviously, as time went on, that kind of faded. And then when Clash Disc came along, I thought, well, I literally in my mind was like, I'm gonna attempt to do what I can as far as marketing and social media to build Clash Discs in the same way that I helped build Dynamic Discs. That was kind of the mindset I had. Excuse me. And then when that went away, Shields came along, started going good. Pardon me. I had pretty much said Shields was it because they have a great retirement program. They treat their people really well. Great culture at the store we had. Our store leader was really great. He was very people driven, which is what I relate to. And I really enjoyed that. And so I thought, you know what, this is what I'm going to do. And this is probably, at my age, it's like, I'm just going to go all in and this is what I'm going to do. And this is probably how I will retire. So I had like completely got it out of my mind as far as ever going back to Dynamic Discs. I still kept up with Dynamic Discs. I watched, videos they put out and what's going on. And I still watch the disc golf and what's going on. I like some of the newer guys that create content in the disc golf world. So I still would watch them. But yeah, I was going to go to the gym, and I wake up at 4:45 in the morning. I head to the gym about roughly around 5. And my routine is I get up, drink a little bit of water, grab my shoes, my gym bag, and I sit in the living room and I put on my shoes, and maybe I'll have some video on or something going on or a podcast. And I sat there, and sometimes I waste time and I just kind of sit there and go, do I really want to go to the gym today? And I pick up my phone and I saw an email and it said David Berglund. And I had to like go, what? Because it's like out of the blue. It's like, what? And I, open it up and it has that whole, just would like to chat and get an update. And I thought maybe he just wants to get like some advice or my thoughts on what's going on. And then I thought, maybe there is a chance, maybe something, what? And so immediately I was like, yeah, I can meet at 7. And so I go to the gym to hurry up and get my workout done. And the whole time I'm thinking, if they want to bring me back, will I go back? Yeah, I got to go back. No, I can't go back. They're probably going to make me move back to Emporia. I can't do that. Maybe I could do that. Maybe I can convince my fiance to move back. I mean, just all these whole things of like, what's going to happen? What's he going to talk about? And then I was like, okay, calm down. They're not going to, he probably just wants to know what my thoughts are and what, maybe a perspective of mine, because I was inside. Now I'm on the outside. And so then it was one of those, don't get your hopes up type of feeling. I told myself, don't get your hopes up. Just see what he has to say.
And now we're here.
Yeah.
Right. So explain the commute situation. So you will be working remotely, but also in-house.
Yes, we're calling it a hybrid remote position where I will work sometimes in Emporia, Kansas. They have a place for me to stay there while I work. And then sometimes I'll work from home. So we've talked about how different scenarios of how it will look, but it's really going to be, because like I'm going to the what's it called now? The Northeast Disc Golf Championship, or Northwest in Portland, because Dynamic and Latitude are sponsoring 2 of the courses. So I'm going to that. I don't know how much traveling I'm going to do. I don't know if I'll end up in, overseas for stuff that Latitude 64 is doing. So it's really going to be, the only way I can think of it right now is probably spend like 2 weeks in Emporia, 2 weeks at home. Then based on whatever's going on, it'll only be 1 week in Emporia. And then it might be 1 week at home, or 1 week in Emporia, 3 weeks at home. So, but they really spelled it out to me is like, we just want you back, and we'll figure it out and we'll work with you, which was the big reason. That was one of my non-negotiables. It's got to be some type of remote, or I just can't do it. And so they were like, yes, we'll figure it out. So yeah, so it's like a hybrid remote position where in a sense I'll be living in both places.
Great.
What was the sense of when they contacted you for the position, what was the sense of them being like, okay, we'd like to bring you back in this capacity. Here's what we think you can do for us. How can you help us achieve that? Like setting out goals, setting out things along the way for you in your new position.
I mean, after the first meeting, it was more like, well, I feel like they were just gauging my interest. Like, is this even a possibility? And then from there, of course, I reached out to Shane because Shane has given me some great advice in the past. So yes, Shane has known more longer than anybody. He was probably, other than my fiance, he was the next person to find out what was going on. And we just kind of brainstormed some questions like, what would my role look like? What are they expecting from me? How much freedom will I get? And so I had a lot of those questions that I needed answered. And they gave me the answer that they want me to bring back what Dynamic Disc stood for the whole time, is the grassroots, community, people-driven brand that we bring you along for the journey. I mean, that was the whole thing, is that I wanted people to be along for our journey. And now it's going to be, we're bringing them along for this journey. I wanted to bring back the passion. I wanted to bring back, the whole slogan, be extraordinary, be passionate, be dynamic. That was something that I coined way back then. And it was just a driving force for how we looked at things. And that's what I wanted to bring back. And I would tell that to them, this is what I wanted. And I got the sense that they were like, yes, that's what we want. We want you back. We want this back. We want that feeling back of what Dynamic Disc is, that we're the everyday golfer's best friend. We're your friend. And we're here to help you when you first start. We're here to help you when you want to go, advance. If you want to go pro, we'll help you out there. We're going to be there for you every step of your journey as far as disc golf. And they were open to it. And it was kind of like, yes, that's what we're saying. That's what we want. So we want you to bring that, because I did at one point, and this is kind of not a tangent, but a side, is that when they asked me what I thought about what happened and what was going on, is that I told them that it was, and this is probably the weirdest analogy, but it was like a friend of mine, or even a child that you helped raise, has lost its way and lost their voice. And it saddened me to see that, to see something that I had put so much heart into and passion into just kind of, fall to the wayside and lost its voice. And I want to bring that back.
I think you will have an uphill battle.
Yes.
Before we get into those hard questions, I do want to ask, and I think this is a question that absolutely everybody that knows House of Discs is going to ask. Are we going to see a collab between Jonathan and Cool Daddy Slick Breeze?
That dude is so freaking talented.
He's so good.
He's so good. I remember before I left that, he came on scene, and I was just like, dude, this guy is really good. I mean, his editing style, his storytelling, the ideas he came up with. I remember being in meetings going, man, this guy's good. This is going to be good for Latitude. Obviously this is good for Latitude 64. Well, this is good for everybody because we're dynamic distribution. And so, yeah, that's great. I would love to do a video with him. I would be very intimidated, and go through the whole imposter syndrome. I'd be like, what am I even doing with this guy? This guy's amazing. So it hasn't been brought up, but I think it would be fun to do for sure.
Oh, you see, on the backs of giants, man, like everybody is built disc golf community and just social media and all of the branding. Yeah. You started that stuff. I mean, who did it before you did it? Seriously.
Yeah.
Like, I can't think of anybody. So
he's cool. I actually remember having a conversation with him before, again, in early stages. I was like, hey, take me through. How do you brainstorm? How do you do this? And he was so gracious and so great with some advice. It was awesome. He's a great guy.
Yeah, he's good. I really enjoy every time he comes out and it's not only that he's completely fine with looking absolutely ridiculous, like in the
Yeah.
stuff he does, which is awesome. So it really brings him to a really humble, fun level.
Yeah.
It's awesome. So, all right, are you ready for some hard questions?
All right, I'll answer what I can, but
All right.
talk them to me.
So the first one is going to be, where DD's at. Give us what your impression is from the outside looking in, not having been in it yet. And also, what are you going to do about it?
Yeah, so like I mentioned before, is that I even did a video or two. Well, I did one video on my own, and then me and you did kind of an interview style video where we talked about the state of dynamic discs. And there were, the video wasn't, I'm not mad, I'm disappointed, but there were times I was mad because I saw what was happening. And then seeing what was happening and knowing the inside part of it made me even more sad. And so, and you actually posed a really great question one time, Shane, that you and I were, talking back and forth about this whole situation, that you said, Bobby, you're not going back to the same company. You are, but you aren't. And that sunk into me, and I had to think about it. Is that when I look back at when I first started with dynamic discs, disc golf was like, it's still growing, but it was growing. Social media was like hardly there. There was some social media. Discraft had put out some great tutorials. I remember watching a bunch of those. Billy Crump had put out some great, The Clash of the Titans. And I remember watching those DVDs going, I could do that. I could do that, and I could do it better and less weird special effects and less weird edits and less weird cuts and stuff. But I remember thinking I could do that. And when I did, people were like, wow, you do great stuff. That's really cool. I've never seen this in disc golf. And I remember I did a live feed at the lodge in Pawhuska, the lodge at Taylor Ranch. And it was I don't think it was quite the Green Country Open, which was a national title event. And I did a live feed of 3 holes, and was in the back of my Expedition. I had my PC, my full desktop PC, and a large Ethernet cable running to the house, plugged into their router, and then, of course, a long electrical cable, camera hooked up. And I remember someone commented and said, oh my God, I'm watching live disc golf from Australia. And I was like, oh, this is amazing. So my point is that during that time, I was like doing things, like you said, that had never been done. And so I rode the coattails of that, and Dynamic Disc was growing, and it was an amazing company, and everybody there was amazing and loved it and was passionate. People could feel that. And so I was sort of riding those coattails. It's not there now. Those people are like, I just literally watched I think it's called Funsies. Is it the Funsies podcast?
Yeah, that's Ben Kenny from Staggering Stance.
Yeah.
And I was watching that literally last night, and they were talking because what's his name? Jay Milley. Yep. Jay Milley was at the Glassbone Open, and he was talking about his perception of dynamic disc was not that great. And they talk about how things aren't going good there. And that thankfully the Glassbone Open kind of opened his eyes that like, it's a real company. It's a disc golf company that wants to grow the sport. They want to bring back the Glassbone Open, the fun feeling. It's just the perceptions out there is not so good. And I was like, whew, I do have a lot of work to do. And so that part makes me a little anxious, a little nervous, but it also, I am looking at it going, I love this as a challenge. Because if I was going back and everything was fantastic, and first of all, they probably wouldn't reach out to me if everything was fantastic, and be able to do this with me. But the fact that they are means that they trust me and they see value in me. And so now it's like, okay, I'm going to make sure that I prove that decision to reach out to me was a great decision. And so that is my goal, is to bring it back. I'm not going to say, well, do I say I'm going to bring it back to its original glory? I don't know, but it's going to be back to what it stood for, which was passionate people growing the sport of disc golf and letting you in on our journey and being part of our journey, because we're all in this together. We're wanting to grow disc golf to be, we want it to be the awesome sport that we know and love. We wanted to share it with more people, and that's what I want to bring back.
So there's no doubt that I think you can put lipstick on a pig.
Yeah.
And I think you can make it look really good. So when I say that, this isn't insulting, but there's still the background. There's still the leaders. There's still the culture that's there. How do you think you're going to deal with that? Because the back end has to change, because you can say whatever you want in front of a camera.
Yeah.
How are we going to change what's actually operating?
Yeah. Yeah, this isn't going to be just a symbolic. They're not just. And the question came up about, are you okay with being in front of camera still? Do you not like being in front of a camera? And I told them I love being in front of the camera, but it was told to me. But this is more than just that. This is bringing back the culture that was there. And at one point, I even said that. I said one of the most important things is it's got to happen is that we've got to figure out the culture within Dynamic Discs. And I put together a whole tone and vision for 2025. And one of those things is initially I'm going to be doing a lot of research, a lot of talking to people, finding out what's going on to understand what needs to shift and how it needs to change. I mean, I know what needs to change, but how do I do? I can't just walk in and go, okay, boom, I'm here. Everybody be happy. Everything's wonderful. Sales are going to go up. And we're going to be fantastic. No, I've got to figure out how do I help? Because I know the people that are still there want it. Mm-hmm. It's not that they don't want it. I've talked to a few people already after decisions were made, and they're pumped, they're excited, and they want it back. They just need some sort of leadership or some sort of person to come in and say, okay, I don't want to say give permission, but be like, okay, we're back. Now, I am not being naive. I may go back and go, wow, now I understand what they're dealing with, but I'm not going to just sit back and let that happen. It's not the old regime, I should say, or it's not the old way. It's back to what we were doing before. And I'm going to figure out how to make it work with the leadership now to bring us back to what we were before. And I mean, I've got probably 6 or 7 Google Docs of just my brand playbook, how we're going to look at it, our content pillars, our brand strategy. And then it's just going to have to teach these to the people that are there, figure out how to have us back to living it. And then once we take care of the internal, you'll start seeing it externally. So it may take some time. It's not going to be where I'm going to walk in and then 2 weeks later, you're going to notice a huge difference. Yeah, you might see my face a little bit more on YouTube, but it's going to take a little bit of time for that to change, to really be seen in other areas.
Mm-hmm.
So,
go ahead, JP.
I was just going to say, I mean, you're talking about rebuilding the culture from within. Luckily, there are still a good amount of people that know you walking through that door, and I'm sure you'll be leaning on them to help you. What is it like? Will you be trying to build a team around you to kind of help you facilitate this changing of the culture? You alone, what are the steps that you see?
Well, that's a great question. And then, full transparency, we're filming this on Sunday night, and I'm the first time I walk in the warehouse is tomorrow at 10 a.m. in the morning. So a lot of these plans that I have will probably shift a little bit based on what I encounter there. And there's a meeting set up for when I'm there. And then this whole week is actually people are flying in from Sweden and coming in from different areas that deal with different brands are coming in for meetings to, they call it, what's interesting is they don't break it up in quarters. They break it up into trimesters. And so it's kind of like I guess for lack of a better term, all staff meeting where everybody comes in to kind of give the state of what's going on and then say what's going on for the future. I don't know what's going to be said. So I don't know. So I have certain plans as far as what I would like to see happen, but it's almost like also I have to kind of come in and say, yeah, I could say, yes, I would love to have a team again, like I did before, and I need this person to do this person, but I need to I'll have to figure that out once I see what I'm working with once I'm there. So we may have to do a month later recap or something like that to see what's going on. I do know that whoever's there, the ones that I've talked to, they're ready. They're ready for to get back to, and I'm sure it's not like, I don't want to paint the picture that like they've just been sitting around doing nothing. They've been putting in the work and doing the job, but I think they're just ready for something to happen. And I don't know if they're looking for a light switch to flip or something, but they want it just as bad as I do.
Great. So we've talked internally. Now let's talk externally. Emporia itself. So we have heard grumblings through the disc golf world, and of course, it's small enough that it gets around everywhere, even up here in Wisconsin. So we've heard that the community of Emporia has started to kind of backpedal away from DD. I mean, DD used to be the pillar of that, well, one of the pillars of that town. Is that true? And if so, do you have any plans of trying to turn that around?
I mean, I was watching some videos and I saw some promotions from the chamber and some of the community stores out there where they did videos welcoming people back. They were excited to see the Glass One Open come. When we got there, we went to Radius Brewery, and they had Glass One Open signs up, and they had discs still in there. So I didn't get the sense from them that they were, backing off. We went to, of course, for breakfast, we went to Commercial Street Diner. They had a sign up, that said, proudly supports Glass Blown Open. And you still saw Sweet Granada had welcome GBO players. You didn't see nearly as many signs. Of course, we didn't drive around all over the place, but you didn't see nearly as many signs as I remember seeing. But there were still signs saying welcome disc golfers. So I believe the community is still wants to back Dynamic Disc. Now, again, I haven't been back. I haven't talked to anybody. My plans are to meet with some of those people, meet with some of the community members and some of the stores out there and see what the sentiment is. That's one of the things I want to research is, internal, external perceptions, and then, of course, the sentiment as far as the community around Emporia, and then obviously the community as a whole is disc golf. So there's going to be a lot of research going on and talking with people to kind of get an understanding of what's going on and what is the perception.
Great. So speaking of the community, have you had a chance to speak with Jeremy and Champions Landing?
I haven't. It was Saturday night. We went to the block party, said hi to a lot of people. I showed my fiance around. We walked around different, it's smaller than it used to be, but it was still nice. It was actually still nice. I was surprised at how big it was, though I remember it being bigger, but it was nice. We walked around there, and of course we had our nun tacos, which were delicious. And so we ate that, and then we were kind of tired. And so I said, well, let's go by Champions Landing to go check it out. So we went in there. I asked if Jeremy was still there, and they said no, he had already left. So I did not get to meet up with Jeremy when I was there. I didn't get to meet up with him. But the Champions Landing looks very nice inside.
Is he aware that you're coming back?
I don't know 100%, honestly. I would assume, like you said, Emporia is not a big town, so I would imagine that word is getting around. So it'll be interesting. That'll be one of the first people I want to because me and Jeremy were good friends. Like I would hang out at his house, he would come to my house. Our dogs, when I had Sebastian and he had Starlin, they were best buds. They played together. They were great together. So he's definitely one of the people I want to say hi to and talk to, and of course him and his wife, and then his little boy.
Mm-hmm. Awesome.
Kind of talking about the public perception, like in Emporia, but now reaching out this golf world, we've obviously seen within the year or past couple of months, actually, Ricky leaving, Kona leaving, and then we see some not as major signings, but like there's the signings of like Parker Welk, Robert Bird, some like really solid players within the community of disc golf. How do you kind of recapture the magic of DD among using your pros a little more? Because like right now it appears that media wise we're not seeing them as much. Mm-hmm. And social media wise there's faces that were definitely out there more, even when Chris Clemens was there, Eric was there, you would see them a whole lot more. How do you use those pros to help you build back some of that brand recognition?
Yeah. Yeah, I've started following them on Instagram, looking through DD's team page and watching some of their social media just to see what kind of people they are. And then it's going to be building a relationship with them, reaching out to them, talking to them, calling them, seeing how things are doing, building that relationship, and then seeing what they're all about, figuring out what about their personality that can, again, so my job is to, yes, create something, but my big part, again, the passion is already there with the people. They want it. The players are same thing. They have their own goals, right? Whether it's to, be, just to be able to tour and survive in a sense, or, become, world champion. My job is to take that and amplify it. So I need to know who they are, what is about their personality that I can tap into, and then amplify that. Is this particular person, is he really good at explaining disc golf? Boom, let's make some tutorials. Is he crazy zany and just like to have a good time? Let's go on some disc golf adventures and make some vlogs and have some fun. So it is trying to figure out what role or what their personality is like, and then amplifying that. Yes, I had it. You could say I had it easy with the old, Eric Oakley and all those guys. Yes, they did make having fun and being silly on camera very easy. But I know that there's people out there. There's everybody, and there's the players. Current players need to have their message amplified, and that's what I'm going to do. Whether it's meeting up with them, my plans would be to fly out where they're at, meet up with them, and talk to them. Go to events, meet up with them, and figure out what they're all about, and then help them tell their story.
Love that. So we had a little bit of a tease, maybe about 6 months ago or so, where Disc Golf Answer Man was potentially coming back.
Yes.
So unfortunately, we haven't seen anything yet. But was that just a precursor? Did you guys know 6 months ago? And are you bringing it back?
No clue back then. It was a conversation that we should bring it back, and it was going to be I was going to do maybe 1 or 2 episodes, and then let whoever wants to take it over. Of course, Eric McCabe, let him do the thing and let him kind of use the name. And once this started happening, that was one of the first things that I was like, we have to bring it back. It's not going to be exactly like before. We'll have some questions, and I don't 100% know exactly what it's going to be. I don't know that we need another recap type disc golf podcast. There's so many great ones out there. I don't know. I don't want to go back to just answering questions because, that was the thing, is after a while kind of getting stale with the same questions over and over again. So I'm not 100% sure what it's going to look like, but it's definitely coming back, because selfishly, that was one of the most fun projects that I worked on during Dynamic Disc. It just allowed me to be myself and let everybody be themselves on the podcast and have a good time. And I think it's still a very relevant, very strategic, and very good way to get your message and get your story out there. So yes, the Disc Golf Answer Man will come back.
Will we see McCall again and his hair?
He actually reached out to me and texted me.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. I don't know. Nothing was said. I know that he's super busy with his job. He likes his job. We tried to have, when I was doing Cool Daddy Disc Golf, I tried to have him back. Well, first we tried to have it Disc Golf Answer Man. Then I kind of went away from that and made it Cool Daddy Disc Golf. And he and Oakley came back, and Oakley was just super busy with touring. And Robert would just, he wanted it. He loved it. He loved doing that. Of course, he loves talking. So, but it just, life got busy. And then of course his kid, things got busy. I know I follow him on Instagram, and I see him. He does pickleball tournaments. So that's kind of his thing. I don't know the last time he picked up a disc golf and threw a disc. So, but I don't know. I don't think McCall will come back. Maybe I can get him on for a couple every now and then, just for a guest appearance or something like that.
Sure.
But yeah, I don't think he'll be a regular.
Great.
Speaking of Cool Daddy Disc Golf, you have recently been active on Facebook through Cool Daddy Disc Golf, asking questions, reaching out, kind of gauging people's interest in things. Do you feel like people have a sentiment like you're trying to get back into disc golf, or that something's happening, or what's your feeling on getting back into being social on social
Yeah.
media?
So yeah, I again, once the decision was made, it was like, okay, what should I do? And I was honestly, I was just being impatient, and I wanted to hurry up and just get back into the world. But I knew we wanted to be strategic with it a little bit. And the thing it was not to put too much out there, because I'm not officially on their payroll yet. So they were being very respectful of everything and saying, let's wait until you're actually on the payroll so that you can kind of do your thing. But I was being impatient. And Disc Golf Answer Man Facebook group is mine. When I left, it was mine, so I kept it. But then I thought, well, I used to always use Disc Golf Answer Man as like my focus group. I would literally ask about, the projects we were working on, certain questions about certain discs, or, different takes they have on certain things. And I thought, well, I can do it again. And so I would, but then I was like, I didn't want to like give it away that I was asking about brand reputation and the state of disc golf. So I would ask other, disc golf technique questions. But it was awesome. It was back to having the conversation. It was a great way for me to have a conversation with a group of disc golfers. And I got really good feedback on specific questions I had about, as far as like personalities in disc golf and certain brands. And so that's definitely going to become, again, a regular part of what I do, which is having conversations with people within the Disc Golf Answer Man Facebook group.
Nice.
That's good. So
Excellent.
we're going to see a little bit of that come back. So
Yeah.
Speaking a little more nostalgia, Late Night at the Warehouse.
Yes, I want to do some sort of form of that. I think that's an important, fun one. That's, again, another way to connect with people and let them kind of in on the inside of what's going on behind the scenes. Disc Golf Answer Man, some sort of, is this disc right for you? Because that's just a great way to show people how to, I don't know. That's one thing I haven't done well with. It was figuring out how many discs I've yet to even touch that have been put out. So that's going to be a fun thing to do.
Well, they just had an absolutely wonderful disc come out called the Heist.
Yeah, I saw someone. I can't remember who threw it, but it looked like a really great disc.
As a retailer, I didn't even know about it.
Oh, really?
So, is this disc right for you? Would be phenomenal.
Yeah.
I think it'd be much.
So that's definitely one that's going to come back for sure.
Yeah. Great. All right, Bobby. Is there anything else that you want to make sure to leave us with?
Just that I am beyond excited to be back. And I'm not naive to know that I'm sure there's probably some of your listeners are going to be like, who is this? Who even is this guy? Which is fine. I'm not like, whatever, but I had an idea that this isn't a comeback for me. It's a continuation of what I was doing before. Now I did make the choice to leave. I could have stayed with Dynamic Disc, but at that time in my life, it was very important for me to get back to Oklahoma, and that was the choice I made. And so I made the choice to step away, but I'm excited that I'm able to get back and continue with what I was doing. I told people that I want to leave a legacy, and disc golf was going to be the place I was going to leave the legacy. And I wanted to leave it better than when I found it. And disc golf has given me so much. It's allowed me to travel the world. It's allowed me to be the goofy guy on camera. When I was growing up, I always wanted to be a superstar. I wanted to be a movie star. I'm not no movie star, but I was able to have fun on camera, and people would watch and appreciate it and laugh and be part of the journey, which was awesome. And so to be able to get back to doing that, I can't even express in words how wonderful and grateful I am that I'm afforded this opportunity. And I definitely don't want to let anybody down, particularly myself, in doing this and trying to achieve this goal of amplifying the passion and doubling down on what Dynamics stood for and continues to stand for.
I'm excited about it. I mean, there is nothing more than I want to see than to see Dynamic Disc come back to the state it was. I'm a Trilogy fan through and through, and I know it's a little bigger than a Trilogy now, but DD specifically, I mean, they've helped our community grow and the disc golf community itself with what they've done with us for course design, baskets, things like that up here in this area. They've done a lot for us. I mean, I have 20 portable baskets that, things were worked out very well for us to be able to afford those baskets. So DD was all about growing the sport, and it really was. And I think with you coming back on board, I think, like you said, you'll amplify that. So I'm excited for it.
Well, yeah, I'm very excited. I appreciate you guys having me on and kind of letting me talk things through and let people know. Again, I haven't even walked back into the warehouse as an employee again. So I'm going to be that'll be kind of my word for at least the next 5-6 months is just learn all I can, soak it all in, and then figure out how to share that with the disc golf world, so that they can, again, you guys can be part of our journey, because you are so important to that journey. Why wouldn't we share it with you? All the wins and the losses, we're going to share that with you because you are the reason for the journey. So you are part of the journey.
Love that. JP, anything?
No, I'm just really grateful for you to spend your time with us again. Yeah. You're our mentor. Yeah. So it's good to hear your voice and talk to you, because I mean, you talk to Shane way more. I mean, I will reach out every once in a while to say something or answer something in the Facebook group, but I think there's a sense of a rejuvenated passion with you as far as getting back. But I think once people see you back, there's going to be a feeling of, I don't want to say hope, but kind of hope that things will turn around.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I think when you bring that up, it's like, it is hope. And I think that's because of the connection that we made. People have felt so connected to it that it's like they are also sad to see it not flourish like it once was. Sure. So I could see it as being as like, man, if they hope that we can bring it back, that it would be back to what it was. Now, we can never bring it back to exactly what it was, because that's just not how life works, right? But we're gonna go back to the roots of it all, go back to the reasons, go back to the story that we started writing since day one, and I guess pick up where we left off and take it from there. So, I don't want people to go, oh, it's back. It's going to be back to what it was. Some of the sense of it will, some of it will feel like what it was, but it's still going to be different because it is a different company than what it was 4 years ago. But the passion will still be there. And so the tools that we have, and the resources we have now will be backed by the passion and desire to grow the sport.
I love that. So in true Night Owls fashion, we always leave on something inspirational or thought-provoking. Do you have anything for us off the top of your head?
Oh gosh, I forgot you do this. I should have checked for this. I don't know. I guess I could go all kinds of different ways. I could say, I guess the one thing that did come to my mind is that during the conversation of, all this coming back, and it hadn't happened, the offer hadn't been made yet. We haven't decided that, but they said that they had been watching me and they'd seen what I was doing on Instagram, and they'd watched what I did at Shields. And it impressed me to say and I was just with Tulsa Shields, I was just being myself and doing the things that I was doing all along with Dynamic Discs and any of the other brands or companies that I worked with when I was doing freelancing, was just being myself and saying that people just want authenticity, they want transparency, and they just want to feel like they're part of the journey. And for them to look at it and then say, look at what I was doing in the present moment and say, let's have him come back and continue to do that, just reinforced in me to just do what you do and be who you are and just let it all work itself out. And that you are exactly where you're supposed to be. So, yeah, there you go.
Love that. And in the words of LL Cool J, don't call it a comeback.
Don't call it a comeback. Because I have been here for years.
All right, gentlemen. Well, thank you very much for your time. And for the listeners, I hope you're excited as we are. And if you don't know Cool Daddy Slick Breeze, just jump on YouTube, look up some DD stuff, old DD stuff, and or maybe ask some of the veterans on the disc golf course because they'll certainly know. But with all that being said, we always leave on deuces in the toilet and keep it subpar.
Thank you guys. I appreciate you guys having me on for sure. I love it.
Absolutely. Have a good night.
You too.